Hey everybody, Brant here with Nutrition First Coaching, and one of the pillars I want to cover this week is on taking care of your body. So this goes into that movement category, and for sure as everybody's starting to pick up the running some more, I thought this would be helpful to talk about what to do before running, kind of proper warm-up techniques, and afterwards to take care of your soft tissue and make sure you're recovering well so you can get back into the training and stay injury free. So first let's talk about warming up. So this is your before. You know, there is a lot of ways to do this, and there's specific principles to stick to, but in those principles, lots of strategies that you can use. I like to think about it in terms of warming up the nervous system, warming up the connective tissue, and then warming up the muscles. So what I mean by that is warming up the nervous system is going to involve a little bit of, I like to do a little foam rolling. So this is just kind of a fancy foam roller that sits in this cradle. Kind of get the tissue warmed up a little bit. For this video's purposes, we'll kind of specifically talk about maybe a calf warm up or treating an injury to the calf. So here we're gonna warm up the calf, 2 out of 10 kind of feeling. We're just kind of loosening that tissue up. This is gonna help to start to wake up the nervous system and kind of regulate it in terms of like, okay, the muscle's getting ready to be active. From here, do that, calves, hamstrings, even quads. You're gonna work through them a little bit. Now what you're gonna go to next is we're gonna do a little, what I call kind of zero gravity activation. So from here, we're gonna be on the back. You can come into this position. Sorry if my foot's out of screen, but we can do a little bit of kind of like ankle turns here. This will start to warm up the calf with no weight against it, even a little ankle pumping. From here, we can start to bend the knee in, kick it straight with that heel. See if I can get you in the picture here. That heel really straight. So here, toes are pulled back towards the leg. This is gonna start to get all that tissue in the hamstring and through what we call the posterior chain warmed up. So now you're getting a little activation without gravity acting on your tissues. Next, we're gonna go into some weight bearing and dynamics. So from here, probably just gonna get the lower body shot of this. Now we're here. We're gonna do some stuff where we just barely bend the knees. I call them kind of unlock. Then you're just gonna come down, starting to get the calves and hamstrings, that whole posterior chain warmed up a little bit. Then we can start to do just some toe raises, sets of 10 of those guys, starting to get things warmed up, and even kind of get the ankles warmed up a little bit more. And then we go through that set again, toe raises, ankle warmed up, even doing like a little bit of rolling of the ankle. So that's starting to take care of our lower body, and we can go through that for the anterior chain and the legs, even the shoulders. Start doing a little activation and pumping of the shoulders, getting yourself ready to do some running or getting ready to do some weightlifting, getting all those things activated, going through that weight bearing. And then the dynamics portion, you can start to pick that up. So that can start to be doing some high knee running, start to be some straight leg kicking as you're moving along, what we call like a monster walk. That starts to kind of floss the hamstrings, even some lunging, kind of moving those joints through a full range of motion. And then of course into kind of easy jogging, getting the blood flowing into the muscles and just starting to get the cardiovascular system warmed up a little bit. So then you go into your run. Maybe it's a long run, maybe it's intervals, a tempo, a VO2 max workout. You go through that workout, you get done, cool down properly. That means letting the heart rate come down, let the tissue kind of recover in terms of moving around, getting the heart rate down, getting the blood back out of the tissue a little bit. This can be done kind of immediately after that cool down, or it can be done in the evening, later that day. And I would say do these things somewhere in the realm of 4 days a week to even every day, depending on if you're treating a little injury or if you're working through a really hard training or high volume training cycle. So now let's talk about that treat to recover kind of thing. Of course, right after the workout or a little bit later. The first one we're going to talk about is is this kind of tack and floss. So this again could be the foam roller. We get that out, we find a little spot here that's a little bit uncomfortable, put a little more pressure. Now we're at the like 4 to 5, maybe even 6 out of 10 pressure. You can even take the other leg, cross it over, and we're gonna tack that down and we're gonna floss that tissue through. So we start to work that spot, then we kind of work up the calf, hit another spot. Maybe it's a little plantar fasciitis, so you can put some pressure there, and then we're just moving the toes around and kind of getting that tissue to tack it down, and then we're actively flossing it through. One of my favorites for this is actually called a voodoo floss. If you want more information on this, we could do a whole video on this, but if we're going for kind of getting the spot in the calf and or foot, we're gonna put this guy on. We're gonna make it pretty tight. It's essentially like a giant rubber band that we can use to kind of tack that tissue down, kind of this big stretch, 50 to 70% stretch, 50 to 70% overlap. And just for time purposes, I'm gonna take it up to about here, but you can kind of wrap it up as far as you want. Now we're gonna stick this guy down, kind of hold it in place. And then we're gonna move all this tissue around while we have it on. We only leave this on for about 90 seconds to 2 minutes kind of thing. Get it moving. We do a little weight bearing with it on. You know, that could mean some squatting, that could mean some lunging type of stuff, moving that through a full range of motion, even getting into that squat and kind of work on getting that tissue to move. You know, this is really gonna loosen up all that tissue in the calf and leg. So now that we got that guy loosened up, that's probably my favorite in terms of that tack and floss method. Sorry about the hot water heater, but we are in the garage gym, so you never exactly know what's gonna happen, and somebody's using the hot water. The other part I would say to that gets into a little bit more of stuff we would treat in the clinic, and that gets into percussion. So if we're working on the calf, this guy's a little percussion gun. You know, we're gonna kind of work through that tissue, just like a little deep massage kind of thing. Then we also get into like electric stim units. So this is where we put the pads on there. We get that little muscle contraction. It's helping kind of down regulate the nervous system, get some blood flowing, try to heal that tissue. So that's our percussion and E-stim. And then kind of that final part is just static stretching. And you know, my preferred methods for static stretching aren't just going into a stretch and hanging on those ligaments and trying to hold that tissue in a spot. If I'm gonna stretch the back of the leg, I'm gonna loop something like this. This is a big monster band. I'm gonna go all the way down, and if I'm gonna be stretching the calf here, I'm gonna drive that knee straight. So I'm really squeezing my quad and just let that band pull my calf back. You know, we can make this a little more dynamic. You kind of squeeze the quad, give it a 5-second contraction, then let it relax. Then you squeeze the quad, give it a 5-second contraction. And what we're not doing is fighting against this band. We're trying to teach our nervous system it's okay to be stretched in this position and to go through this range of motion. You know, this is an easy one to do in the evening. This is going to help start to tell your nervous system it can go through these ranges and it can access this motion, and it doesn't have to worry about getting injured in these positions. So that's an easy one that I think makes, you know, that static stretching a little bit more dynamic and really kind of lends it to where if you're an athlete, that's how you're going to be performing with that tissue in that loaded position, going through that full range of motion. So hitting on that pillar for movement this week. DM me some questions. Let Bob or Vicky know if you have some questions, and I'd love to answer them on here, talking about the 4 pillars. Of course, there's a lot of nutrition involved with keeping the tissue healthy, but today we're talking about movement, what I consider the second pillar. You know, we still got stress and recovery. We're kind of bleeding into that a little bit with this, and that third pillar, and then of course relationships, and hopefully everybody getting back out there as the world keeps opening up. There's also lots of things to explore with mindset and relationships. So let me know what kind of questions you have. Let's try to answer them each week in the newsletter here. If you like these videos, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. check us out on social media. Everything's Nutrition First Coaching. You can find me pretty much anywhere, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. But I appreciate you guys watching. I know this was a long one. Hope you got something out of it. Let me know some other questions, and have a great week.